Yes, thank you very much for joining us for this session. I would like to welcome everyone for joining us once again to the public sector webinar. And before we start this webinar, we are going to be talking about making some introductions. So this webinar is proudly powered by P4PE Institute. P4PE Institute we are the anchor of this P4PE talks, and the basic benefit for this, the whole benefit for this P4P talk webinar is to develop professionals, individuals, and team using expert insights that are appropriate for personal development, business growth, and career advancement. You can check us up on our website at www.p4p.co. P4P is an enabler in providing bespoke solutions. Is it in the business growth, organizational development, the HR transformation, and the AI data analytics in Nigeria and West Africa? Our mission is to build African mid-sized business to develop people to have exceptional professionalism, exceptional excellence, and passion for whatever they do as a professional. Our services are consulting, training, and research. So you can follow us on any of the social media pages, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook. So before I hand over to Mr. Joe, our facilitator for today's session, as we all know, the HR Godfather, I would like to tell us a bit about our session protocol. Please, before we start the session, kindly mute your audio, kindly turn off your video, and you may speak when the facilitator invites you to speak. You can ask questions, you can comment, you can raise concern, but you should make sure you all your questions. And if the questions are channeled to the facilitator, that's Mr. Joe, he will answer at the end of the session. So please feel free and make sure you get the most impact out of this session. Once again, my name is Jane, and I am your host for today's webinar. All right, thank you very much. As I hand over to Mr. Joe.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I trust you are keeping well. Please confirm you can hear me and you can also see me. Please, on chat, you can respond on chat, yes, if you can hear and see me clearly. Okay, they say they cannot see me, all right. So let's see if we can solve that problem. Okay, Omeike, do you want to log out and log in? There's confirmation that I can be seen. Okay, thanks. Muiwaza says, no, you can't see me. Okay, let me turn off my camera and try and put it back on again. Is that okay? Can you see me? Okay. Thank you very much. Please, can the host confirm that I can be seen?
Yes, sir. I can see and I can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Once again, thank you, everyone, and welcome to this particular call. It's an honor to be with us as we go on this particular journey on public sector transformation. My name is Joel Omeike. I've had an interesting career in the past 27 years, helping executives to advance their institution and help them to achieve great results. I lead conversations and engagement at P4PE Institute. I'm a member of some board. I'm a thought leader. I'm an entrepreneur, and interestingly, I'm a farmer also. Well, I've also had the privilege across time to author some books to help to advance thoughts within how to make the world of work very well. One of my books is Fire Your HR. And then once you get this material, you can feel free to click on the link inside it and then perhaps get a copy of the book. You can follow me on LinkedIn. When you do get this, you can scan the code and you'll be able to follow me on LinkedIn. So why are we here today? Today's session is designed to help us to understand why we should give public sector a chance. We're here to understand how human-centered causes of dysfunction exist in the public sector. Sometimes the problems that we find within that particular space is not because of system, it's not policy issues. Most times they are driven by capacity gaps that we find in individuals. And we need to fill those gaps before we can reform. No effort will succeed for a long time if the capacity gap continues to exist at that point in time. We also try to learn how we can lead reform without waiting for permission. Because one of the things we find within the public sector is that it's a permission-based culture. If you don't have approval or permission, nothing gets done within that particular space. We also look at a few steps we can use in order to increase performance, to increase accountability and grow trust within the system. I promise you at the end of this session, you're going to take away some of these things. One, you will come to the agreement that reform is personal. It starts with the individual ownership. If we don't own our desk, our function, our units, there is no way the larger institution is going to reform. Two, that training is a necessary evil when it comes to transformation. And why we say a necessary evil is because most institutions run away from training because of the cost incurred, because of the logistics involved, because of taking people away from their desk. However, those are sacrifices we will make in order for us to get people trained at that point in time. And then small actions can lead to big change at the end of the day. We also look at a few structure on how to tailor our learning to ensure that we're able to fix some of these particular structural gaps. And then everyone can lead, irrespective of your title. Whether you're an officer or you're a DG, leadership is on your desk, right? You need to deliver on that particular thing. In terms of our agenda, we shall be looking at the people problem that we found within reforms, the real bottlenecks that exist in government execution. We'll also look at how you can lead change from wherever you are, right? We'll see how you can build the foundation for transformation and a few practical ways in order to engage transformation. And then we'll give you out some resources that you can use to continue to drive transformation where you are. Okay, please share with me in the chat box 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, 6 is an activity. So 1 to 5, which of them resonates with you? Which of these is your most interesting part that you'd like me to emphasize as we have this conversation? Let me just get 2 or 3 responses in the chat box. In the agenda, is it agenda 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5? Which one is going to be an aha moment for you? Just type in the chat box. Thank you. So we have an indication of what the concerns are in public sector. The bottlenecks, the bottlenecks that we have in the public sector. All right, beautiful. Thank you. Can we get one more feedback of what we'd like to focus on in this session? Thank you. Interestingly, in the order 1, 2, 3. All right, good. So let's get into the first one. Let's get into the first discussion and see how that goes. Okay, someone has edged in on capacity gap. Thank you very much. Thanks. So let's look at the first one. On the first one, we're going to be looking at the problem with the public service, as the case is. We shall be looking at this particular issue that we find a lot in this particular place. The thing is that public sector reforms should start with people. All right. Today's conversation is not about policy. It's not about how to put certain systems in place, as the case is. But reform doesn't fail because the plan was weak. It fails because the people behind it were not ready for the reform. And so we push reform on them at that point in time. And that's why I say, with boldness, that reform does not begin with strategy. It actually begins with capacity. There is a reform illusion that we notice, so to speak. Usually, the plans are very massive. In public sector, where you hear the plans that they've developed, the strategy they put in place, the vision they put in place, and all the documentations that go around with it, is very, very massive. But when it comes to execution, it's very tiny. Very little, almost insignificant, unable to drive what the strategy has said at that point in time, making it difficult for us to eat the good will from that particular reform at that point in time. There is what I refer to as the reform illusion. What reforms looks like, but it isn't. There are a new committee usually launched. Yes, white papers are published. Budget is allocated, a strategy retreat is held. But after that, nothing happens or nothing changes at that point in time. We stall. And after a while, we repeat the process again with a new leadership, as the case is down the line. So this picture is usually what we see a lot. All right, a high-powered committee is formed. A new white paper is released. There is a reform budget. There is a strategic retreat that happens. But 3 months down the line, same results, same dysfunction, same complaints. Why? Because we keep trying to fix the system without fixing the people who are responsible for the system. Sometimes your problem is not the knife in the kitchen. Your problem is how we use the knife in the kitchen at that point in time. The hidden crisis that we also find when it comes to this particular area is that there is a crack, a serious crack in what we're working on, as the case is. It's not a lack of laws, because I mean, we have a lot of laws, and those laws guide us, both within our states, our local governments, at federal levels, at the country as a nation. There are sufficient laws that guide us. It's usually a lack of leverage. If you look at this particular bridge that I have here, this bridge is an attempt to reform, right? Meanwhile, at the foundation of the bridge are people who are holding on to the particular governance at that point in time. They need skills, they need leadership, they need structure, they need culture to be able to work very well. A cracked bridge is exactly what we find sometimes. We blame it on bureaucracy, but often it's broken capability, not broken policy, that is the problem. Many officers are committed, but they don't have the skills to deliver. Their leaders don't track performance regularly. Teams work in silos. You see those in learning and development working separately from those who are in HR, those in finance working differently from those who are in operations, as the case is at that point in time. Those in policy running faster than the institution has the capacity to be able to implement the policies that they are bringing out at that point in time. And most institutions are running 2025 reform plans based on 1999 structure. Ask yourself, if you're within the public sector service, when was the last time your internal structures were adjusted? When was the last time there was an organizational development to improve on the job description, the reconfigurations, the tools that are used to get the job done? All right, so that's the problem sometimes that we have. Officers lack the skills to implement these policies. And there is no cohesion, there is no clarity, and institutions do not have the systems they need in order for them to execute very well. And so this brings me to the turning point on this particular conversation. If you build the people, the system will reform itself. I tell you, you do not need a DG to reform a system in the public sector. The people who are working there understand the system more than the DG that is coming in at that point in time. And they have the wherewithal, the resources, the data that they need. They just need to be enabled to be able to do the job very well. So you don't fix government with memos. You don't write memos here and there and then believe that things will be fixed down the line. You fix it with fixing the mindset, fixing the skills, fixing the structure that is required to get the job done at that point in time. Consider it like a tree that is growing. You are reforming the leaves, the branches at the top, when in reality, you should be reforming the roots that brings up the foundation that drives the growth and the survival of the tree at that point in time. So the real reformers are not consultants that you call to come in to work with you. They are not the policy advisors that you have that are with you. They are the officers like the executives that you have in your organizations, your managers that you have in your organizations, your senior officers that you have in the organization, the directors you have within those organizations. They are the ones who are supposed to decide how things can get better if we give them the exposure that they need. And that's why in our organization, P4PE Institute, we transform missions with the simple truth that if you build people, the system will reform itself. So sometimes don't run too far. Look internally at the people that you have. Today is not just about another talk. So we're not here to talk generally. It's an invitation for you to rethink how you are currently reforming things within your own organization at that time. All right? So those are the pain points we notice within governance as the case is. And in summary, governance and reform focuses more on policy instead of focusing on the people, the mindset, the skills, the structure that are required to deliver it at that point in time. Now, let's look at the bottleneck. Someone said they wanted to know what is the real bottleneck in government as the case is. Well, we are focused on the bottleneck when it comes to government execution. What exactly are some of these bottlenecks and how does it affect progress? We are going to unmask why policies fail in practice and highlight the deep human and structural barriers that affect reform at that point in time. The interesting thing is that good policies do fail, but why? And majorly, it is because of the implementation gap where reform dies. Beautiful policy, but poor follow through at that point in time, as the case is. Once we have a good policy, things will change. People say that a lot, that we just need a new leader. That leader will come with a policy, and once he comes with the policy, things will change. I tell you, it is not always that way. We keep seeing this. Brilliant policies are approved, fancy retreats are held, and then crickets. Why? Everything shuts down. Because implementation doesn't always follow through. Implementation doesn't fail at the top. Guess where implementation fails? It fails at the middle, at the front lines. One of my business partners runs a program called Leading from the Middle, as the case is. Leadership at that middle and below are the drivers of sustainability of the success of those policies, not the top, as the case is. And why is this the case, right? Because there are no tools for them to work with. There are no guidance for them to follow. There is no ownership down the line at that point in time, because it seems as if everybody is just living and working for survival, just going through the emotions at that point in time. And then from a performance point of view, there is no sufficient tracking. There is no data acquisition as a basis, and there is no analysis that goes with it at that point in time. So we might have a good idea without execution. In fact, that's what I call a ghost. A good idea without execution is a ghost. And that's why some of our public services are haunted by a lot of ideas they have come up with at that point in time. So if you look at this, policy vision on point, strategy retreat on point, mid-level confusion follows up at that point in time. Guess what? Because most times the policies are not carried along by the people in the mid-level. The strategy retreat is only for those at the executive, at the extreme end, the directors and the consultants and the DG as the case is. But meanwhile, the mid-level who are supposed to implement it are not part of the strategy outcome at that point in time. What happens at that point in time? You have a frontline breakdown as the case is. Sometimes we blame it on bureaucracy. That the problem with our public sector is that it is very bureaucratic. But I tell you, bureaucracy is not the villain. Bureaucracy is just a system of rules of how governance works. It's a system on how things are orchestrated, designed to work within government, as the case is. The main trouble is not bureaucracy. The main trouble is incompetence. Incompetence is inability to work within the systems that's been set by government, or inability to work around the system that's been set by government, as the case is. When someone says, well, that is what the policy says, that's an example of lack of ownership mentality. If you feel that the policy is wrong, what have you done to champion a transformation of the policy? And if you're not happy with the policy as the case is, why don't you follow through? Because that's what the job is at that point in time. So reform requires clarity, not just speed, not just go and do it as the case is. So many people say the problem is bureaucracy. So me, I don't agree. Bureaucracy is not necessarily the problem. Bureaucracy is not the enemy. Bureaucracy is just a framework that is in place. The real problem is our incompetence within bureaucracy. When officers don't understand how to navigate the system, or worse, refuse to navigate the system, in the end, our reform will die at that point in time. So efficiency does not mean skipping steps. That's not what efficiency is. It means knowing how to work the system with skill, with speed, with sense. And that's where capability comes in at that point in time. So please understand the difference. Bureaucracy versus incompetence. There is a difference between the two of them. All right? Let's not blame everything on bureaucracy. I tell you, bureaucracy has its place. Bureaucracy, when we complain about bureaucracy, we are saying that the rules are not working, the system are not working, is a bottleneck, is slowing us down. But there is also incompetence on the part of the executives and the team members to notice that it's not working and pushing to ensure that it gets fixed for it to work very well at that point in time. We also have a culture of silence. We notice a culture of silence regularly in the public sector, especially when the executives and the seniors are around. Everybody is silent, nobody talks. As if there's a God that is going to punish somebody at that point in time. Civil servants stay silent just to Okay, I got thrown out. Let me see if I get back. I was. Sorry about that network issue. Okay, good. So we're back online. So one of the quiet killers, like we were saying earlier, one of the quiet killers we've noticed within our public service is a culture of being mute, a culture of being silent, as the case is. In too many MDAs, officers will not speak up. Why? Because speaking up is risky. Innovation is punished in some areas. Challenging the status quo is seen as rebellion. And so the system runs on fear. No one is pushing ideas. Everyone is complying quietly according to existing norms. But here is the truth. You can't reform what you are afraid to confront. And that's why we must re-engineer institutional culture, not just strategy. Strategy alone is not enough. So passive compliance replaces active leadership, and that's not what we want within the organization. We also notice another problem in this particular area that affects government execution is systemic misalignment. Systemic misalignment. We have misaligned structures, misaligned rules, misaligned accountabilities, as the case is, all right? Some of our organograms are outdated. Organograms that are built around people instead of around the job process and the work that is supposed to be done at that point in time. Instead of being built around the output that is expected, the outcome that is supposed to be delivered is built around people. And that is why sometimes when certain people exit governance, as the case, you see the structure begin to adjust again, begin to change at that point in time. We also have vague job descriptions. Ask yourself, when was the last time, if you work in public sector, you actually use your job description for your weekly, monthly activities? Sometimes there's a lot of random assignments and activities that you get involved in that you cannot find anywhere in your job description. And that randomness continues for 6 months, 1 year. And after a long time, you wonder whether you need that document again at that point in time. So many agencies are still running reforms based on organogram that is old school, as the case is. Job roles are very unclear. People are accountable in name, but they don't have real authority. You have a job title, but your title is just for title's sake. No authority that goes with it at that point in time. How then can you own your shop if you don't have the powers to follow through and do what you need to do? So performance is also not being tracked at that point in time. No clear KPIs, no performance feedback. And sometimes we wait until at the end of the year during our EPA, the employee performance appraisal that is done at the end of the year, before we give a feedback to employees. And sometimes it is too late. And at that point in time, who cares? It's just a documentation exercise, as the case is. And so even committed officers feel powerless. There are some team members in public sector who are driven, who are committed, but sometimes they feel frustrated, they feel powerless because they can't seem to do anything because of this systemic misalignment that we find in the system at that point in time. So what we need is a reformed model where structure enables strategy, where the structure of the organization, of the MDA, drives the strategy at that point in time. It's okay, set your strategy, but let your structure push that strategy forward and get it to the results that you want. Roles must be clearly defined. We must know where one job stops and where the next job continues at that point in time. We must know when there are handshakes and when there are overlaps, and to what extent those overlaps have been required or allowed at that point in time. And leaders can lead without micromanagement. You don't have to micromanage your team to get results. Worse is leaders who lead without any management at all. We'll call those people laissez-faire leaders, as the case is. And that's institutional alignment if you're able to achieve that. Structure driving strategy, rules being clear, leaders leading without micromanagement, you then have an institutionalized alignment. And it's missing in a lot of institutions. I tell you the truth, I've been privileged to work on a couple of projects across various MDAs. And it's sad to see the level of misalignment that exists within those particular areas. And most of our team members in those areas are afraid to rock the boat. Remember our previous conversation? They are afraid to rock the boat. Just leave it the way it is, as the case is at that point in time. There's also the myth of digital-only reform. The myth of digital-only reform, where the reform is focused purely on digitization. There's a lot of hype around digital transformation today, both in the private sector and the public sector. So you hear everybody talking about technology, IT. In recent times, it's now AI. But here is the real truth. You cannot automate incompetence. You cannot automate what is not working. Because what you do is just increase the speed of failure at that point in time. So a new dashboard, by installing a new dashboard, it does not fix poor planning. Installing e-governance still will require effective people. No matter how level of e-governance you put in place, it requires effective people to drive it at that point in time. So true transformation should rather focus on humans, structure, system. Technology is only a tool. The focus should not be on the technology. At the end of the day, the technology is plugged into the system that you build and then let it run at that point in time. Imagine if you're putting together a performance management system. When we say performance management system, we are not referring to technology. Technology is not the system. That system you put in place is what is going to ride on the back of the technology you're going to bring. The technology is going to make it easier for the system to work effectively at that point in time. Or perhaps you put an organizational development initiative, maybe a coaching program, maybe a mentoring program that you put in place, or maybe a structural review that you put in place at that point in time. So the reformer, whatever it is that you put in place, the reformer is still the officer who knows what to do, how to do it, and has the permission to act in that line at that point in time. Until we fix that, we are just putting new paints on old problems. It's like just whitewashing a wall, and continuously, it doesn't get any better at that point in time, as the case is at that point in time. So transformation needs capacity, not technology. Technology will come after there's capacity. And I keep saying this regularly. When you're doing transformation, when you're doing reform, don't focus first on the consultant putting the system in place. Because what you see most time, if you look at the project document, you see that training is always at the end. Check all the transformation you've seen. Training is at the end. We build capacity after the systems has been installed. Guess what? While you're installing the system, the people are not aware. They are confused. They are unsure. So what do you get? Resistance. People are not engaged. They are not committed. They don't want to get involved. And then when you take them to training, already they go with the mindset of that resistance. But if you are focused on capacity building earlier, people are excited. They are welcome. They are asking, okay, when will it come? When will this technology come? When will this transformation come? Because they are hungry already for it. And that's why your technology should not be the focus, but the drive of growth of capacity to get results across. Yes, exactly. I see your comments. Exactly. These are truths that we need to say so we can find a way to continue to improve. These are the myths of digital-only reforms. All right. So reform is not just about digital. Reform is about people. People is at the core of reformation within those institutions. All right, so let's now look at how do you drive change? Someone requested for a conversation around leading change from where you are. How do you drive change? You know, I am just the assistant manager. I'm just the manager. I'm just an officer. I am just the assistant director, right? How do I make change happen in the organization at that point in time? At this point, what we want to do in this section is to show that public transformation doesn't always require permission from the top. It only requires courage, clarity, and consistency from the middle to engage the top in order to get the jobs done. Sometimes we at the middle are so frozen, afraid of the guys at the top, of the leaders at the top, that even basic conversations we don't have with them. If you attend an MBA program, usually one of the questions, underlying question they ask you in an MBA program is that what is your 60-second speech? And today it has been reduced to 15-second speech. That if you're inside the lift with an executive, what can you say in 15 seconds? That when the executive walks away from that lift, the executive continues to remember you and wants to extend that conversation from 15 seconds to 1 hour, as the case is. And that's all about our walking away from feeling that we need permission. So anyone can lead change. Anyone within the organization can lead change. You don't need a title in order to lead change. And let's say it for clarity. You don't need to be a DG to drive reform. You don't need to be the minister to drive reform, as the case is. You just need to care enough. You just need to try enough. You just need to be committed. If you pursue these items very well, sometimes you notice that it is not enough. You care, you don't get result. You try, you don't get result, but you are committed. And over time, because of your consistency and commitment, they see you as the technical expert they will always relate with, they always engage with, so long as you respect the protocols that are required to do the job at that point in time. Now, every reformer in history started as just another staff. You see that person you call DG, that person you call minister. If you go through his or her CV, there was once upon a time when that person was also an officer in one institution or the other down the line. And the person has grown through that record as the case is. All right. They looked around, saw what was broken, and did something different. Notice that some of our executives rose very fast in their career. Some of them did not grow through the normal career in the public sector of promotion once every 2 or 3 years, as the case is may be. Some rose very fast and for various reasons, right? Either because of transformation initiatives or because an executive identified the potential in them and pulled them up, or because they were very mobile, as the case is. Either way, you must find a way to lead as you move on in your career at that point in time. So if you are an officer in any department today, in any unit or in any parastatal, this is your own permission slip. I'm giving you permission to transform. Once you get back at the end of this particular session, take a moment and think about what unit, what system, what structure, what part of the institution needs attention, and what can I and my team and my colleague do about it without necessarily dragging the DG or dragging the minister into getting it done at that point. Lead away, lead anyway, start where you are as the case is. Reform doesn't begin with power. Reform begins with ownership, because when you own it, you deliver results. Notice that even those who have power and they are driving reform, if they are trying to reform people who don't have ownership, one day the driver of that reform will get tired. There's a proverb in Nigeria that says the person that blows trumpets from time to time stops in order to clear his mouth and catch his breath. Now, what happens if you're leading a team of individuals that they are only dancing because you're blowing the trumpet? When you stop blowing, what do you think will happen? They will stop dancing. So we need individuals who, even if the music has gone away, they still have the music in their mind. The music, the beat is still in their head. They continue to dance and carry that transformation and reform forward at that point in time. And that's where it starts with capacity development and capacity building as much as possible. Yes, no. Yes, no. You need to translate strategy into execution. All right. You need to ensure that you move strategy into execution to deliver the results that we expect to see as much as possible. How many of us have seen beautiful strategy documents gathering dust? I'm sure if you work in any of the government establishment, you can relate to one or two documents that is gathering dust. Sometimes it's called Vision 2020. I remember a document that's called Vision 2020. There's also Vision 2030. There's National Digital Agenda. There's reform blueprints. I can go on and on and on and mention them. But execution, nowhere. Or execution insufficient to be able to deliver the results at that point in time. We need to be the bridge between strategy and results, between strategy and results as the case is. Execution is the middle point, is that bridge between strategy and the outcome that we need to get at that point in time. The officers who are meant to bring those strategies into fulfillment cannot connect the dots. They do not know how to link the dots at that point in time. So we need to be the bridge. We need to read the strategy and know it. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
All right, beautiful. I think the network was fluctuating. Okay, so we need to understand how our team's tasks feed into the strategy at that point in time. We need to have a pilot small initiative, bit by bit, as we begin to build it and understand the process at that point in time. No matter how simple it is, just do something. Not doing anything at all is unacceptable. Once the strategy document has been set, own it, take it, ask for a copy of it, ask for explanation. Get the executives that built it, ask the consultants that developed it for a session with your team members to understand the part you have to play in it in order to get it forward, to be able to achieve the results that is expected at that point in time. Then document and share the results across the organization. A strategy doesn't touch the work, become a slogan. It will remain a slogan at that point in time. And you can change it also. So track progress and ensure that everything is working very well as much as possible. Okay. So upskilling. You need to upskill also the system as the case is, right? And let's be frank about upskilling as the case is. You need to identify the skills that are required for your role, seek the courses that are required, seek the books that are required, find the mentor that is required, whatever it takes. If you're waiting for HR to nominate you for training, you may wait forever because one, HR does not have unending budgets. There's a limit to what HR can do for your personal development. So you as an individual must own your growth, own your development, own your own advancements. Try and join professional networks within the industry and within the space you are in. If you're in finance, there is financial and accounting industry and profession. Join them and see what is going on. If you're in project management, if you're in administration, if you're in procurement, you're in HR, join the right groups and hear what is going on so you can learn and continue to grow yourself at that point in time. And whatever you learn, apply it immediately. Because it doesn't matter, it doesn't mean that you learn something and then you just keep it. Some people say, I am waiting for the day I am promoted. The day I am given that job, I'll apply what I've learned. Look, what you don't apply, you forget it. It will leave you at that point in time. So ask yourself, what skill are you missing right now? What tool do you need to become more effective with? Don't wait. Read, take a course, watch webinars. Webinars that are organized by your organization, webinars that are organized by some experts outside, and other international webinars you find. In fact, if possible, dedicate 1 hour every week and attend one webinar. If you attend one webinar every week, in 1 year, you will have attended about 50 webinars. And if you learned only 1 point each week from that webinar, you are 50 times better than the other individuals that have not been attending it. And guess what? Most of those webinars are free, as the case is. So even if it's out of pockets or after hours, invest in it. Get yourself to grow. Because when you become more competent, you become more confident yourself. And your confidence can turn into action. And that's the beginning of transformation. One of the major reasons why we're not getting transformation is because our individuals and colleagues in the office, they are not confident to challenge the system. So you need to breed that confidence. And confidence comes from competence, as the case is. All right? So model accountability at that point in time. Raise the bar in your office. Do what you say you're going to do and follow through. You need to be accountable to the rarer skills that is required. Because accountability is not very common in the public sector. And the most powerful most officers need is they need to be trained on accountability. Accountability should be trained like a soft skill that we train our colleagues on. So periodically, we should run those programs so that people will learn how to be more accountable. At least be accountable on your shop, on your own space. Own it. Most officers are trained to explain why something does not work or why something did not work, as the case is. But reformers don't make excuses. They own whatever it is.
Yeah, thanks. Yes.
So, okay, I wanted to. Yeah, I've told someone to bring it to you.
Yes, I've received it. Thanks.
So they make things work, right? They start with simple habits. Keep your word, all right? If you say you're going to do something, stretch yourself and get it done. And if you can't get it done within the time frame you have stated, make sure you let people know that you're extending the time for XYZ, as the case is. Finish any task you start, all right? Preferably before the deadline that has been stated. And that's one of the major problems employees have in organizations. If a task is assigned and we have an agreement that you do it in 2 days, don't allow day 3 to come and the task is not done yet. That's lack of accountability. Measure your results and share your progress as much as possible. The moment your colleagues start to say, he always delivers, then you are no longer just a staff. You are the leader at that point in time, as the case is. Even if your badge does not say leader, but because you always deliver, everybody will always defer to you, as the case is. All right? And then build trust across the various departments as much as possible. Share your knowledge, influence without authority, become very influential, as the case is. Collaborate instead of competing. There's no need of competing, as the case is, all right? You need to find ways to work hand in hand with your fellow colleagues as much as possible to be able to deliver the results as expected. Then help others to succeed as much as possible. Change doesn't happen in silos. No, you can't sit in your cubicle, in your office, or your desk and expect certain things to change. Reformation requires collaboration. You need to connect. You need to build alliances. Sometimes you need to build alliances outside your own organization. If you're in HR, talk to HR department of other MDAs. If you're in finance, talk to the finance team in other institutions, as the case is. Right? If you're in monitoring and evaluation, as the case is, talk to individuals in other areas. Learn how they are doing it, what they are doing, what makes the difference from their own area. Then you can glean from it and improve what you're doing for your own organization. I tell you the truth. If all of us do this at our various areas, you'll notice that the organization begins to transform, even without a reform agenda. On its own, it begins to grow and change and expand and get better at that point in time. Be known for solution. You're a go-to person for results, not the problem carrier. Every time we come for meeting, you're the one that raise your hand and say, sir, that one we did it last year, it did not work. It cannot work again. Don't be that kind of person. So ask how you can support the team if the team is struggling. Share templates that you find. Sometimes we browse the internet. You come across some templates, download it. Share it with your team members. Guys, I found this. I don't know how we can use it, right? Suggest ways we can improve our existing systems at that point in time. So when people trust you, your influence will begin to multiply, even without you having a title at that point in time. And influence is the currency of change. Use it wisely. Earn it daily. And before you know it, you'll be wealthy with influence, as the case is. All right? Now, also be the thermometer or the thermostat within your organization, not just the thermometer. A thermometer is a system that tells us the current temperature, right? That's what the thermometer does. You're the one that raises your hand and say, the people are not happy. The people are disengaged. You are a thermometer each time you say that. I tell HR sometimes when I discuss HR transformation, don't always be the thermometer in the executive meetings. When we go for board meetings or when we come for all the directors are in a meeting, HR is always acting as thermometer. The employees in this location, they are not happy. This is in that area. All you are doing is thermometer. It is time to move from thermometer to thermostat. So you have a choice every day. Shift the culture by being the culture itself. Be the culture you want the organization to become. Don't just measure temperature. Set the temperature you want and drive the system to ensure we achieve that particular temperature at that point in time. Culture is not changed by policy. You don't put policy and then culture changes overnight. what you get is what we call compliance, and compliance is not culture. So culture is changed by people who refuse to accept dysfunctions as normalities. Every time you act with integrity, you model a reform. Every time you ask a better question, you spark learning. And every time you try, you give others permission to also try themselves. That's what we refer to as leadership. That's influence. And that's exactly reform in action at that point in time. If you do that, I'm sure you'll be able to deliver the results that you can expect at that point in time. Okay, so let's bring all this into context. So we've said a lot around what is required for you to transform, all right, to be able to drive transformation within the organization and then deliver great results at that point in time. So here, next question we're now asking is, how do you build the foundation for this transformation? Because meaningful reform has to be systematic. You don't reform overnight. You know, the caterpillar does not change to a butterfly overnight. You don't see a caterpillar struggling on the road, and then by the time you come back to that caterpillar tomorrow, it has become a butterfly. That's not the way it works. So running one workshop, one training program is not enough to reform and transform people. It's not enough to get what you want at that point in time. You need to rewire your people through a system, through structures, step by step. And working with just one training or implementing one training throughout the year doesn't address it. Running one reform initiative doesn't address it. Some organizations say they've started doing Thank God It's Friday, that very soon their culture will change. It is not enough. Thank God It's Friday alone does not change culture. It does not bring the team together if that is all you do at that point in time. In fact, Thank God It's Friday in some organizations is a session where we share food, we share small chops, and we share drink. After we finish collecting, everybody disappears. So where is the bonding in the Thank God It's Friday? So it's critical that you look at that point in time. All right, so here you go. Transformation requires more than training. You can't reform a system you have not rebuilt already. So here are the seven pillars that can help you to go through this transformation. What's going on? Okay, give me 1 second. I can't see the pillars. They are not showing. One second. So we can continue from that point in time, right? So questions, you can feel free to ask your questions, share your voice, your concern, agree with what I've said, disagree with what I've said, as the case is, so you can deliver this result as much as possible. So we'll wait for like a minute or two and take any questions or feedback that we'll have here. Consider this a safe place, no silos, no silly questions as the case is. All right, and then let's share, so to speak. And if you feel like you want to speak privately, feel free, you can reach out. Contact details at the beginning of this session and also at the end of it, so we can discuss further. In terms of resource, at the end of this particular session, you will have access to these three resources. You will receive the Public Sector Transformation Initiative document. Take that document to help to x-ray your own institutions and look for areas that you want to make some transformation in. There's also the public sector training brochure that contains certain training programs you might consider to use in building capacity for your organization in the next 1 or 2 years. And then, of course, the recording of this particular webinar will also be shared accordingly so you can use them as the cases. Keep your eye on this particular site. These 3 pieces of information will be uploaded on the site for you so you can reference it as much as possible. Thank you very much. So we'll have a question from Muyiwa. He says, do you feel that some of these issues are also found in private sector? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, we are not far away from the governance that we have. Some of our organizations are an extension of the public sector as the case is. All right. So some of these things are also, you find them in the private sector also, especially legacy private sectors, organizations that have aged over time. You find an organization that is about 20 years old or thereabout, you begin to see some of the concerns we've mentioned so far. Also, especially in large private sector organizations, you find some of the concerns we've mentioned so far, that it exists in them. We are not living outside Nigeria. So some of the things we've mentioned are inclined towards the public sector, and those particular conversations also get to the private sector also. Thank you very much. So both sectors can benefit from applying some of the lessons we learned from this particular area. Okay. Thanks a lot for your time, taking out the time to share with us. You have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
All right, the session. The link to the record will be sent to everyone that attended the session. All right, thank you and have a great day. Bye.